we're all more alike than not alike with wanting to raise, champions, right? Wanting to raise kids that go out there and their life is reflected in a life well lived, and in a life that, they've gone out there and lived a life that God's called them to, what he created them to do. So kind of talk about that, the paradox of nowadays. I feel like it's so easy to want to be like that parent that wants to give your child everything, wants to appease their feelings. I want them to feel happy all the time.
Right.
I want them to not complain. I don't want them to cry. I don't want them to be sad. I don't want them to go through these negative emotions. And kind of the paradox of that, how you've seen it raising the kids and working with them and just knowing what you know as an adult looking back. But like,
because everyone's going to have a testimony, right? They're all different, like how God's working in their life to ultimately get them to realize who they are, number one, in Christ, and then what they're called to do, right? But it's like, we all got a different story, a journey, things that we've gone through, how we were raised. And then what we try to do as parents is try to block our kids from all the mistakes that we made, all the dumb decisions, all the things that how our parents raised us, and we try to prevent them from seeing certain things. But it's like, at the end of the day, man, you can't block your kid from their testimony. Yeah. Like, they're gonna have to go through some stuff in order for them to build the resilience, to build the strength, to build the character that they ultimately need to be. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Leveled Up Life podcast. As always, Branamier, Courtney here with Paul McLain.
Good to be back with you, bro.
Every week, man. It's a good time to be here in the studio, man, bringing you another podcast, another episode, trying to help you level up your life in all the areas that matter most: your faith, your family, your fitness, your finance, even your franchise, even trying to teach you how to make some money, how to get better, how to get smarter, how to have a better relationship. Man, we talk about a lot of good stuff on here. A lot of good feedback coming from you. So thanks for tuning in, subscribing, liking, all that good stuff. Make sure to share this with a friend. Let's get this out of the way in the beginning. That way,
if you care about them,
if you're like,
I don't really got any friends that I like or care about, then
if you're selfish,
hold it close.
Just watch it for you. But if you care about those around you, share this with someone.
Let it go, let it grow.
That's right. Today, man, we're gonna talk about something I think is super important, like we do every single week. Kind of this thought, this idea about like freedom, but like, where's freedom found from? So we can go a lot of different directions when it comes to this, right? So how do you find freedom? Is there freedom in surrender? Is there freedom in, do you have to fight for? Like, what does this look like? And so I'm excited to dive into this topic.
Yeah, we tied it right in the perfect season with 4th of July, Independence Day, and so coming right after that. And I think this is just such an important concept because, when you're kind of bound, or you feel like you've got strongholds, or you're just like going through each day and it's just a fight, it's a struggle. I love what you said. Man, we're created to go from glory to glory. Now sometimes it doesn't always look like that, right? But sometimes it is, right? The glory is just right there. We just got to unpack and let some things go and release some things. We kind of have to have some demo days in our life to go out there and be able to build it on a foundation that's going to allow us to reach new heights. And so I'm excited to kind of unpack these in really 3 topics. We'll talk about business. What does that look like to let go of some things in business that maybe you're holding on to and it's keeping you from the next level in business? Also, kids, right? Between me and you, dude, we've got a squad.
Shut down a restaurant.
And we take over, man. And so, we're going to talk about that, like how to let go of some things that maybe the stress and anxiety of trying to like think that you've got to live life for your kids, right? And kind of be there, what do they call, like
helicopter
parents. And sometimes there's so much paradoxes. It's a paradoxical life, I feel like we live, like what we think isn't. And the last thing is to like let go and experience freedom that, and this is for the ones that, got some faith. When I'm trying to preach at you, you could take it and apply it to the universe, or whatever you want to tie it to.
I'm trying to preach to you.
But we're gonna get into, how to find freedom in God. Like, what does that look like as well, right?
That's good.
And so if you haven't been able to tell, man, I leveled up my skin color this past week.
You look good, bro.
I
think 4th of July got you right.
I wanted to blend in with you, bro. So it's like,
you're a mixed breed. Welcome
take a
to
look
the
at that. Yeah. It feels,
you can see it. If you're watching, Paul's showing his extremely good looking tan.
I've leveled
which
up.
matches my natural skin tone.
Yeah, you got to level up your skin color in the summer.
By the way, speaking of freedom, it's 4th of July. Did you record the fireworks? People that record the fireworks?
Do they?
For what?
To watch it back?
I guess.
Yeah, you want to watch this live, by the way.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't record the fireworks.
Yeah, or the ones that record the audio of the fireworks.
Right.
You got to see it. You got to experience it.
You gotta live in the moment.
Well, let's get into this thing, man. So business. Let's tackle the business. How to let go in business. And so, for me, as I started into business, I wanted to have my hands on everything. I thought, like, if it was going to be done, I needed to do it. If it's going to be done right, my hands had to be on it. And it's one of those things that what you think isn't. Like, in order to go out and level up your business, you've got to let go. You've got to have delegation. I think a lot of entrepreneurs or people that are driven and have this desire to create business and success and get to this financial freedom, I believe that a lot of them, they want to have their hands. They want to be the one that's in charge. They want to be the one that you can call on in the games online, man. I want the ball, right? And so what that leads to is like trying to manage everything, right? Like I want my hands on everything. So for you, Brandon, as you went into business and you launched and you got, things moving and going, like what was the biggest things that you were able to let go of, and how did you experience kind of freedom of letting go of some things on your plate that maybe, you thought you had to have your hands on, but 100%. The moment you took them off, you're able to see yourself go out there and reach new levels and that come off your plate.
So a couple of things. I think number one, it depends on like, what do you want out of the business or the opportunity? Like if you want it to actually be a business, then you must start it with that in mind, right? And so any business, if you look at that's a successful business, it's more than one person.
Yeah.
So like if you have a business and it's just you, well, I hate to burst your bubble. It's not really a business. It's just your own job. You work for yourself, right? And so if that's what you want, great. But if you want it to be a business, then you have to start with that thought and go, hey, what am I good at? What's my skill set? Where am I most effective? And where am I terrible at that I can delegate to other people, right? And so in my business, my service business, when I first started back in 2016, it's like I was the only one at first, and I knew how to do every element of the business. But like once I got so busy, well, then you have to start to release some things, and that's where it gets scary because you're not there. So like for us, we would go service customers' accounts overnight, and like I know me, so I know I'm gonna get it done right. There's not gonna be any complaints, right? Nothing's gonna get broken or stolen. But it's like you hire that first person, it's like, well, you gotta put some faith into other people, and that's hard because at the end of the day, it's your name on the line, it's your reputation. I think that's what holds a lot of people back is number one, just the fear of like, well, what happens if I'm not there? What happens if I let this go and they screw it up? Well, it's going to get screwed up. They're not going to do it as good as you. They're going to fall short. But over time, like any good entrepreneur has to be willing to invest in people, I think, number one, and be willing to like not just invest time, but invest money into those people to train them up if you ever want a business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's a stumbling block for most people is they play the game too small. Like they play it for like a side hustle. That's like the culture of the day. It's like everyone has a side hustle, and it will stay a side hustle if you think of it that way.
It's good.
But if you want it to grow and expand, then you have to begin to invest your time and money into people, teaching them how to think, right? Because most people can do the task, but it's like, how do you get people to think like a manager or like someone who's actually going to care about your business? And it's not easy, right? It's not like those people are just everywhere, especially if it's a service type business like me, right? So number one, I would just say invest in people.
Yeah.
Like it starts there. And then try to find people who believe in the vision, like believe in what you're trying to accomplish, believe in the service that you're giving, right? Because there's a whole lot of people who don't care, who are just in it for a paycheck. But if you could find the right people, like for me, I've had a good handful of employees for years and years and years, and I do everything that I can to hold on to them. So I probably overpay them for what they do, but it's worth it because I don't have to think about like when they go out to service an account. That makes sense?
Yeah, dude, it's so good, man. And I think that I think we get scared. Like I know for me, when I was hiring the first person, it was like, I don't want to mess it up.
Right.
Like what if I mess up teaching them and leading them and guiding them and directing them? And the reality is like I did. It's like I almost want to find the first like 3-4 people I hired when I was 19 that were my admin and be like, I'm sorry, like can I pay for your therapy? Like what do you want me to do? Like
100%.
Because it was I was a wreck. Like I had to learn, but I learned by going through that, learning like what to do, how to do it. Like in the beginning, it was like I hired them, I wanted to delegate, but it was like, man, how can I get the most from them. It was almost like they were like a wet rag. Like, how can I get the most from them? And I was like, is it worth it? Is it, am I getting what I'm supposed to get from it? And I realized that, man, that's the complete antithesis. The goal is not what can I get from them, but what can I get out of them? Like, how can I bring out the best in that individual? And you learn that as you kind of get going, right? And that's the paradox too, of like, me just trying to figure out how can I squeeze every single minute, make sure it's productive and there's no time wasted, opposed to, and let me empower this individual.
That's good.
Right? Let me empower them. How can I, have them watch me do it? I watch them do it, and then I empower them. I speak life into them, and I let them kind of take ownership in that, right? And I think that's a big deal as far as, finding the person. For me, Brand, like I knew that there was a lot of things I was handling. Like, I had to call leads, I had to get leads, I had to go out there, see clients, I had to have policies written up, I had to have pending business checked, I had to have recruits, all these different things that were going. And I sat back and I looked at my schedule, right? And for anybody running a business, my suggestion is if you're saying, well, I don't know what I should delegate. Okay, well, anything that, for one, you hate. Right. If you hate it, like, you can say, well, but it makes me money. Well, if you hate it, what is it costing your energy and emotion? Because I'll do certain tasks, and I know that the task I'm getting ready to go do afterwards my best effort has been stolen by the task I didn't want to do prior.
That's good.
Right? And so now I'm doing something that might be the highest income producing activity. Maybe that's going out and sitting face to face with the customer and being able to kind of uncover their need, their situation, what's important to them, and then give them the value and the service that I'm called to give. That's what produces income, right? And so I started looking at my schedule saying, what do I hate doing? And I was like, man, I hate calling carriers, following up on pending business, trying to kind of get that sell through the pipeline, so to speak. I don't like doing it, right? I don't like doing applications because I write like a 2.5-year-old that got held back in preschool. Like, it's terrible. I remember calling the first underwriter, like, dude, where's my money at? He's like, well, dude, we haven't been able to underwrite it. I'm like, you said 24-hour turnaround. He's like, we can't underwrite what we can't read. I was like, fair enough. And I was like, I gotta delegate that. And so look at the stuff you hate, right? And I went through my schedule, and I'd put a red next to something I hated, a green something next to something I loved, and then I would go through and I'd put money signs next to the stuff that was making me the most money. So if it was like making a phone call, a sales call, that was like 3 money signs. That was the highest paying thing.
Yeah, that's
right. Good. And then I would go through and look at, okay, doing sales calls, that's a 3. Checking emails, it's like a 1. Like, it doesn't really make me a lot of money. It's kind of pointless. It distracts me, for one, from being hyper focused in the thing that makes me the most money and provides the most service to the clients that I'm serving. And so I went through all those different tasks, and I figured out what's wasting my time, right? Talking to a brand new agent, right? That's a 3 if I can get them to go out there and help their first client. So I started going through and figuring out what's my 1, 2, and 3 as far as money, what's red or green as far as what's my energy and emotion. And that gave me the ability to sit back and say, okay, this is important. And for me, like, even calling a random resume and not knowing if that person was the person that I wanted to be in business with, maybe their character wasn't in line, their values weren't in line, or maybe their track record just shows that, man, they don't put their work ethic in, right? They just don't want to work. Me calling those people, it was a waste of time, so to speak, because it took away my energy and emotion trying to figure out, is this the right person? Right. And then it wasn't a high income producing activity because I could hire somebody that could call that person, be the filter, and then they could say, these 4 of the 100 are the ones that you should talk to. And I think that's how you can kind of delegate. And then you say, all right, I'm going to let go of it right now that I found the person that can do it. And what you got to ask yourself is, like, what is your annual income? Like, what are you getting paid? And if you're like, I'm getting paid $100 an hour, well, then you can delegate and pay somebody $25 an hour, take that additional $75 and go put it back into your business, and then take that hour, say it was doing pending business, take that hour and now go serve a client. And if you got a 4x multiplier on it, it's a home run.
Yep.
Right.
Well, it's just trying to figure out where you, as the owner or the entrepreneur, where your time fits best. Right. It's trying to. So in the beginning, like, you got to wear all the hats. Right. And so, like, what you're saying is, in the beginning, you got to put in your time, energy, effort to figure all that stuff out, to know how to do the pending, to know how to do the admin, to know how to do all those things, which is like, we're talking about this concept of freedom. Like, you had to, spend time learning that stuff to buy yourself freedom to do the things that they either pay you the most or you enjoy the most.
Yeah.
So it just goes back to this thought, like, man, the freedom as a business owner is not free.
Mm-hmm.
But most people want it like right away. I was talking to someone called me yesterday that they want to start a cleaning company, and he was asking me all these questions, and he's talking about like hiring, and I'm like, dude, do you even have your first customer yet? Like, have you ever ran an ad? Have you ever like done anything? He's like, no. He's talking about like getting government contracts. I'm like, dude, first of all, you need to like get a business license. He's like, well, how do I do that? I'm like, dude, you got a long way to go, bro.
Right.
Start talking about government contracts, right? And so as an owner, I think it's just important to, number one, you gotta, and for me as a business owner, there's never full freedom in it because you still have your hands over everything, right? And so I kind of go back to my first point. It's like, what do you want out of it? I don't think any entrepreneur is like, hey, I want to just. There's no such thing as passive income. There's no such business that just necessarily runs by itself. And so for me, I was always like, I want a business that could provide financially for my family, that could give a good service to my community, can give good paying jobs to others around me. So with that in mind, then I'm going to do the things it takes to build that up. But it takes a lot of work.
It does. And I think too, Brand, think about like when you hire your first person, did you ever have this thought of like, after like a day or two and like, dude, I'd be better off just doing this myself.
100%.
Still do. Because you're having to slow down to show them, right? And what I would suggest is as you do that, depending on what business you're in, but I think most businesses kind of follow the same kind of, structure, so to speak. Like whether it's janitorial business, financial services, real estate. Once you're training somebody to go out there and like say clean a building, right? Or I'm training somebody on how to check pending business or whatever. Once I've trained them, if I can record everything about it and create like an employee handbook,
exactly,
right? And then the next time I hire somebody, now it's a little bit less that I have to slow down.
Yep.
Because I think that what happens is you'll hit a lid. Like eventually you get to a point where you're thinking like, I can't go find more contracts because my schedule, my plate is full doing all these things. So in order to do that, you got to take something off your plate. That's the delegation part. And now you've got more time to find another contract. But you actually lose more time when you hire that person because you got to slow down and show them all the different things. So you hit a lid and then you almost go backwards a little bit, which makes you feel like this is pointless. I should just do it myself. But once you get through that and now they know how to do it, then you lift the lid because now you can give it to them. But I would just implore everybody that if you're doing that, right, if you're a business owner, and maybe you've done that before, is create an employee handbook where you don't have to repeat yourself. Nowadays, you could videotape it. You could put together a couple questions that go through it. And now you could say, hey, I just hired you. Go through these 5 videos. Take these 5 quizzes. Heck, you could put the quizzes in. You could put it in ChatGPT, and then it'll pump out the questions to ask. And then once they've done it, they come to you and then give them like a scenario to go through. Like I would do like a mock role play, right? And give them kind of a situation that they were going to handle, whether that was a client that calls and they're mad. Tell me how you'd handle it, right? After you've gone through this. And once you've gone through a couple scenarios, you could say, man, this person's, I think they're the right one.
Right.
Or if they're not, man, let them go because
cut your losses.
Cut your losses now, man, because like the most expensive thing is a dead weight employee
100%.
That's not going to move forward. So,
well, most of the investments that you're making, like you're not going to see the result of them for 30, 60, 90 days. So if you're pouring into an employee now and they're not going to make it based on the couple tasks that you've given them in the first week, cut your losses now before you spend a month with them and then have to fire them in week 5.
Yeah.
So, and it's the same thing we do like in the church, like up front, like it's volunteer, so it's a little bit different, but it's the same process. Like you got to go through essentially like a screening process, not an employee handbook, but like a volunteer handbook. What does that look like? What are our values? What's the vision? Kind of what's your role? What's the expectations? And if you can't even make it through like the first couple, like, hey, read this book and then book a meeting, well, it's like, you didn't really want it that bad, So, but I mean, it's a cost.
Yeah, well, also the personality test is something that I've always done with anybody I'm bringing on board because I'm not trying to find an outlier. I'm not trying to go against the rule, right? There's always an exception
100%.
To the rule. But if you're going to hire somebody that's going to do audio, video for you, you're going to hire somebody that's going to do administrative stuff for you, have them take the personality test, like a DISC test or what have you, and see if that position matches their personality. If it doesn't, well then, you're doing them a service by not bringing them on board, because they're going to be like, I hate this, right? They might be willing to come on board and they need a paycheck, but you don't want to hire somebody that hates what they're doing, right? And the personality test is going to help link that up.
That's good.
Well, let's talk about kids.
Woo, where you want to start? You got a lot, bro.
Well, I mean, you're
you
right
got
there.
17 to 2?
Yeah, 17 to 3.
17 to 3. Okay, so I'm just turned 3.
Yeah, so I'm just turned 3, and my oldest will be 17 in like tomorrow. Yeah, July 9th.
A month full of birthdays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I told my wife, I said, I don't. She said, you gotta go get a vasectomy. I said, I don't need one, but I just need to not be around you in October, because that's when all the conception takes place. Yep. But well, let's get into kids, man. So I think that
let us know how many kids you have. Put in the comment.
Comment how many kids you've got, and if you've got some words of wisdom, this is the one thing that I always kind of tiptoe on, because it's like, my kids kind of look all right now, but heck, one might get addicted to crack next year or something, and it's like, I'm just navigating and going through it all.
You have to do a parenting series at church, because it's like
probably a reason why.
Still figuring this one out.
And I don't know if you ever do get it fully figured out, but let's go through some things that we've kind of messed up, figured out, and like you've got 4.
Yeah.
And so raising kids, and the goal is, I think everybody's more alike than not alike in the fact that, you want to raise a child that's going to be independent, that's going to have some self-esteem, self-confidence, and they're gonna thrive in life as you move on.
Right.
Like, I know the Bible has a lot of different proverbs that talk about, like, having
training up a child in the way they should go.
Yeah, and then
even won't depart.
And as just like how an honorable child is just like, it's just health for the flesh. Like, it's something that you look back, and I know that me being in financial services for so long, man, sitting with clients that their kids had gone on and they had been successful, right? That you could just see the joy that was on them, like the pride that they had. And the same thing with somebody that's had a kid that's just like really struggled and stuff like that. It's, as a parent, it's like you're longing for them to kind of turn it around, right? And so, we're all more alike than not alike with wanting to raise, champions, right? Wanting to raise kids that go out there and their life is reflected in a life well lived, and in a life that, they've gone out there and lived a life that God's called them to, what He created them to do. So kind of talk about that, the paradox of nowadays. I feel like it's so easy to want to be like that parent that wants to give your child everything, wants to appease their feelings, right? Like, I want them to feel happy all the time.
Right.
I want them to not complain. I don't want them to cry. I don't want them to be sad. I don't want them to go through these negative emotions. And kind of the paradox of that, how you've seen it raising the kids and working with them, and just knowing what you know as an adult looking back, but like, kind of talk about that.
I don't know who it was. Maybe it was a pastor, someone I was listening to. He said, one of the worst things that we can do as parents is block our own kids from their testimony. I was like, that's deep.
That's good.
Because everyone's going to have a testimony, right? They're all different. Like, how God's working in their life to ultimately get them to realize who they are, number one, in Christ, and then what they're called to do, right? But it's like, man, we all got a different story, a journey, things that we've gone through, how we were raised. And then what we try to do as parents is try to block our kids from all the mistakes that we made, all the dumb decisions, all the things how our parents raised us, and we try to prevent them from seeing certain things. But it's like, at the end of the day, man, you can't block your kid from their testimony.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to have to go through some stuff in order for them to build the resilience, to build the strength, to build the character that they ultimately need to be, right? I was thinking, I'm thinking about like the epistles that Paul wrote. He wrote all these letters to churches, but he wrote them in prison. But it's like, if he never went to prison, would these letters have been written?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Probably not. Like, he probably had to be in prison for him to get that perspective to then encourage the churches, right? So it's like, man, there has to be some things that our kids go through in order for them to fully step into the identity that they're called to live in. But it's like, as parents, how do we navigate that? That's the question that everyone wants to figure out, right? And so as parents, man, we try to block them from pain, block them from like, our kids are in private school, right? So I have a lot of conversations with like my friends whose kids aren't in private school, who see all kinds of stuff at school.
Mm-hmm.
And there's different opinions, right? So it's like, well, dude, they got to grow up sometime. And I agree. Like, they're going to get introduced to the world at some point.
Yeah.
But like, where do you it's almost like, how much do you shelter them? And I don't really have a good answer for it, but it's like, number one, I think the most important thing that you should be speaking over your kids is identity.
Yeah.
Like, this is who you are. Like, no matter what anyone else says, no matter what the world says, your friend says, like, this is who you are. This is how you're made in the image of God. Like, you're a child of God. Like, and I think once you get your identity right, then you can thrive in any situation, sure. Right? So I think you do this so well, like kind of with the affirmations and the reminders and the gratitude journals, like things like that. It's all just comes back to identity and character, and this is who we are as a family, this is who we are as children of like McLain's and Courtney's. Like, so I think it starts there, man. If I could just give advice as a parent, like, number one, speak identity. Number two, speak confidence. Like, you want a confident child.
Yeah.
For me, like, and kids have different personalities, right? And so you could say the same thing to two kids and they receive it totally different.
Right. And
one's insecure and one's secure. It's like, well, how did that happen? Well, it's just like, that's just nature, right? There's some things you can't control, but as a parent, my number one job is to raise them with the identity in Christ.
Yeah.
That's what I would say is the most important.
I think so too. I think that as far as sheltering, like my whole opinion is like, because I had somebody say, well, dude, like, why do you not let your daughter go to parties?
Right.
Like, they're gonna get exposed to it. It's like, well,
when they get in college.
Yeah, my job's not to put them in positions where there's going to be temptation and the lower level version of themselves could possibly be brought out by a bad choice because they're there. Right. I mean, it's like, why not just like, start smoking some weed in my house with my kids too? Like, they might, no, I don't want to expose them to those things, right? But my goal is, as they go through different situations, whether that's even as a younger age, like Penelope, right? Kind of like Bronx, like they're very high. Their emotional IQ is very high, and sometimes their greatest gift, it shows up in a kind of a weakness, right? When they don't know how to control it. So Penelope will have these moments where she'll just get very emotional, whether that's anger or sadness, and she'll just kind of go out, right? Like, she's not really cognitively there. And I remember when she was like 5, 6, thinking like, well, I gotta, try to give her what she wants. Like, and everybody was like trying to appease Penelope because they didn't want her to get triggered. And I realized that, no, I gotta help champion her through those emotions, right? And help her experience those emotions, but learn how to manage the emotions by going through it. Yeah. Opposed to, let me just try to shut the emotion down by like, what do you need? Okay, let's appease Penelope. No, that's not gonna allow her to grow in her emotional IQ and her emotional resilience and intelligence and regulation of emotions. And so what we did, we started to say, all right, let's change the environment. Penelope, let's go over here. Let's do some breathing. Right. Let's count from 1 to 10. And we changed the environment, and we're just teaching her some of the things that she was going to need to do to regulate the emotions, right? And it's still there, right? She still has those, but I've watched her now learn how to handle emotions at such a high level where she's even better at empathy and emotion than all the other kids. I mean, to me, she's almost better at it than I am. Like, she'll come in and say stuff where, like, we were getting ready to go to Mexico. My wife was like, I don't know if I want to go to Mexico, and all the kids are, because she was like sketched out about it, and kids are like, Mom, we don't want you to go to Mexico, right? Because like, that's what kids do. They don't want the parents to go. And Penelope comes in the room and she's like, Mom, I really don't want you to go either, but I think it's important that you go because that'll be good time for you and Daddy. And like, that's what she said. I'm like, there's no way. But she just like, and there's so many different situations where like you could see the emotional maturity that never would have been there if I wasn't just finally like, all right, I don't think this is. And then I did some research, I read some stuff, and cared enough to be like, all right, I need to make sure I'm championing her well with this, right? And so I think that even self-esteem, man, like when the kids, if you're able, you allow them to kind of go through some stuff and you just ask questions and let them kind of to work through it. Now you've got a kid that can solve some problems. Yeah. But if you're solving every problem for your kid, and we all know that the kids are going to face problems as they get older, they're going to face problems as adults. And if they've never built the muscle to handle problems, now when a problem that's a level 6 comes, and they've never built their level 6 problem solving skill, that's going to take them out. Like, it's going to debilitate them. It's going to cause them to retract. But if you've allowed them to experience problems and how to solve them and let them kind of fall on their face and learn how to navigate that, when life throws a 6 problem at them, man, they're a level 8 person. They're like, I've been here. I can handle this. So I just think that that kind of stuff for me is difficult because as a parent, dude, like especially with my girls, man, like Psalm's different. It's interesting. It's like I want to like tee him up to conquer the world, right? Create a warrior and like let him go through some stuff and like with the girls is like they fall and get hurt. It's like I want to protect them
For
from the
sure.
world,
Yep.
And but I just learned that like I got to get my emotions in check first because it's hard not to want to just take care of a problem.
Solve every problem for them. Step in.
It's difficult, man. So it's almost like on us first is what I've realized. Like I got to get me right.
Yep.
In my perspective, right, or else I'm not going to be able to go out there and help get them right.
Well, dude, so I was sitting at the boys' soccer practice on Tuesday, and they're practicing with the older team, and there's some big boys who like, I mean, they're probably like getting ready to turn 13, and Bronx is barely 10,
right?
And so the other number 10 on the bigger team is like, dude, almost as big as me. And he was like low key punking Bronx, like, dude, you're short,
right?
Like put like his arm on the top of his head, is like, dude, you're little. And Bronx was like a confident kid, but like he wasn't sure like how to like handle it, kind of. And so Bronx was like not really getting that he was like making fun of him because he's so innocent. Like he wasn't really fully understanding this kid's like making fun of me, but so he was like, what, like, all right, whatever. But I was like aware of it, and dude, like my blood pressure was like boiling.
Yeah.
Like, dude, who does this kid think he is?
Yeah, where's his dad at?
Like, dude, I saw his dad. I knew right where his dad was at. I was like, dude, if this kid like pushes him or something, like, dude, I'm likely to get up. But it's like, no, he needs that.
Yeah.
Like he needs to experience it because I experienced it. We all experience it. Like if I just step 100%. In, then it only makes it worse for him. Like, cause I might have put a Band-Aid on that moment, but the second I'm gone, everyone's not gonna be like, dude, what's your dad gonna step in now?
Yeah.
Like, so it's like, man, we can't protect him from everything. Another thing I would just say, just as a parenting tip, as we kind of wrap up, is it is I think what kills kids' confidence is when we compare them to their siblings.
Yeah.
Like when you compare, cause dude, we were super guilty of this for a long time. It was like, did you see like your brother doesn't do that? Like, son, did you see like how he responded and you didn't respond? Like, or like vice versa, right? So, and then it's like, man, you're comparing like two totally different kids. Like they got different ways to respond. Like I wouldn't want to be compared to anyone.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's you see that a lot, especially with parents who have multiple kids. It's like but they're all different and they're all unique. And if you can foster their personalities and character traits, like they could use those things that the world might say is like, oh, they got an attitude problem or they think they're behavior issues. But like if you could foster it in the right direction, like those are the things that will like lead them to the place to where God's calling them to be. Right.
Yeah, that's good, dude. Well, I think that it's funny how you can kind of look back at the different at your kids and their personalities and like their characteristics, and then kind of reflect upon like how you worked with them, and like how they've kind of gone through life, and almost kind of see why they are the way they are in some regard. It's kind of like I was thinking about Peyton, and I was gone a lot. We had her at an early age. I was 19 when Peyton was born, and for like my whole 20s, I don't even really remember them because I was just out building my business. I was traveling all over the place, running appointments. There was 10,000 agents nationwide, and I was going to these different agencies to train, and I was just busy. I was gone. And so a lot of the stuff that she did, she kind of did it, with her own and me empowering her. Like I remember her trying out for her club team, and dude, she was probably 11, and she calls me up, and Tasha's got all the kids and stuff in the car, and one of them's freaking out, and she calls me. I'm at a hotel staying overnight for a meeting that I'm hosting, and she's like, Dad, I don't want to go out and meet the coach without you.
Right.
So I don't want to just walk out. I don't know none of the girls. Super uncomfortable, right? She didn't know any of the kids that are on the team. Didn't know the coach. She was playing rec, and I kind of felt like, man, I wish I was there. Maybe we could just go to the Thursday practice because I'll be back by then. And I said, sweetheart, you got it. Just like go out there, be confident. Like you got this. And there was a lot of different situations that were kind of like that. And now, if you look at Peyton, dude, she's so
she doesn't need a parent.
No, she's like so independent,
grown woman,
And so it's kind of those things where it's like, but it's harder to do that now with my other kids because I'm there.
Right.
But at the same time, stop and say, yeah, I could go out there and meet that coach. I've already had a conversation. I'm gonna have you go out and kind of own that situation, and you're gonna see how you can get on the other side of it. And I remember talking to her after that practice, and her confidence, because it's never gonna debilitate the kid. It's gonna build them up. Their self-esteem is gonna come from being able to like, okay, I was highly uncomfortable, yet I still tackled this, right? And so I think it's a big deal.
Really good.
All right, guys. Well, hey, we'll do a couple quick bonus content on how to find freedom by letting go of some things that maybe are holding you back, and really kind of trusting God as you go through. And because I love what you said, it's like it comes down to God's always working all things together for good. And so no matter what situation or season you're in, if you can just believe that, it'll allow you to let go a lot more. Yep. Like in that control of like, I need to control the outcome. Sometimes for one, you can't control it.
No.
And God always wants you to put the control into his hands, because Lord means that you're a master decision maker, you're a controller of my life. And I think that that's such a crucial thing. So we'll cut a bonus content. And Brent, I want you to kind of get unleashed into this topic. We'll let you go on that topic of letting go. So guys, hey, thank you for joining. We appreciate you. We value you. Hopefully this brought some value to you today, and you can go out there and put some things into practice that'll allow you to live a leveled up life, which is our desire, is to, as a community, come together and have our life that's progressing in the levels or the areas that matter most, so we reach a new level each and every week. So guys, be blessed, make it a massive week, be strong, stay steadfast, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.